Hey, Fitheads. Today we talk with Jenny Blake. She's a licensed nutrition coach and super freaking cool. And she talks directly to ladies who want to get their physique up, ladies who lift. Yeah.
I thought her last name was The Nutritionist.
Oh, right.
Jenny, but she was fun, man. It was fun to hear. I mean, especially her journey from where she came from, what type of sport she was into getting into nutrition now. That was really fun. I think it resonated with you and me.
So relatable. And I'm saying that she speaks to ladies like me, but man, it was for definitely Max too. And she knows a lot. It was really cool. We could have talked to her for another hour.
I know. I really liked how she was all about, I mean, you and I talk about this a lot, but she was all about like finding a system so you don't have to stress out about making a choice, or it's not hard to stick to a diet if your diet's already like built in as a routine, or
right.
Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. We love.
Yeah, it was stuff applicable to people that aren't even trying to add muscle. That's just a lifestyle thing that can help anyone.
Welcome to Total Fitheads.
Serious fitness for not so serious people.
Welcome, Jenny. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. I'm so glad to. Jenny, I've actually met in person. Usually it's just Zoom call. This is the first time we actually talk to people. So to have seen you as a human, it's cool to now then we brought you on.
I'm a real person. And yeah, you were sitting in front of us at one of the conferences we've been to recently and just kind of connected.
How was Ellie's first impression?
Dun, dun, dun.
Was I smaller than you expected? That's the number one thing I hear from, you obviously hadn't seen me online. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. We actually just had Erin Comstock on before you. I don't know if you met her at the conference.
I didn't, but I saw you guys talked about gallstones.
Yeah.
Nice.
Are you full of gallstones, or did you get them out?
Well, I haven't listened to the episode yet, but I'm studying functional medicine too, and so I'm actually just wrapped up that chapter about gallstones and how we all have them to some degree. But anyway, that's a whole different topic. Clearly, you guys already covered it.
Yeah, well, I love that you're continuing your education. Let's just hear about like how you got started and where you're at now.
Yeah, so I actually was in corporate finance. So I was in the corporate world, working the long hours at the desk and the whole nine. But through my whole life, I was always super active, super into like health and fitness. I was a competitive cheerleader my whole life. I raced dirt bikes too. So just kind of a bunch of different things. And then I got into CrossFit and was competing in CrossFit, which led me to bikini shows, and I was doing that. So outside of the corporate finance world, I was really into health and fitness. And as I learned more, I became obsessed with learning more. And so, which I don't know if anybody else has that tendency, but I just went all in and started. Once I figured out that nutrition was the solution to what I was chasing in terms of like looking better naked and performing better. And once I figured out that nutrition was 80% of it, I was like, I have to learn more. And that's when I started studying for my license and getting my boards and taking different courses and mentoring under other nutritionists. But then two was a combination of people were reaching out to me saying, what are you doing? How, tell me more about it. How can you help me? And a combination of that and me being like, I have so much knowledge now in this like process and strategy that so many people, especially people who were just like me, like need to know so they can stop killing themselves in the gym or doing 6 times a week, 7 times a week, 2 a days, eating 1,200 calories, and just implementing a strategy. And so that brought me to coaching, which then I was, built up my practice, left my corporate gig, and I will never go back. Yes. And starting my, building up my business, and then just continuing to help more and more people, and just fine tune like my process, continue to get education like we just talked about, and help more ladies. So I work with ladies who lift and want to build muscle and decrease body fat. So that's who I work with now through my program, Create Your Shape. And yeah, that's where we're at today.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, you're the people that you target, right? Or that it sounds like they targeted you, right? I was going to ask about like what it was before and how it's arrived at such a specific group of people, but it sounds like that was always who you were going to help.
Kind of, yes and no. At first, I was like, I'm going to help everybody and anybody that asked me, right? And so I worked with a guy who had 75 pounds to lose, and we worked on that, and he, got off his diabetes medication and things like that, which is awesome.
That's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. But as you work with more people, two things happen. One, you start realizing who you like jive with and who you click with. And then the other thing is I could, focus on, okay, how can I learn more about diabetes? But then I'd also have someone who's pregnant and be like, okay, how can I learn more about that? And then I'd have someone who's an Olympic lifter and competing, and how can I learn more about that? And so from there, I really narrowed it down just to be like, okay, if I pick one thing that I really connect with these people anyway, I can really be an expert in that area, and then therefore get my people better results and enjoy it more.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's so much, you can have so much more effect if you really focus.
Yeah. And so over time, it went from helping everyone to, I realized I don't want to work with males. I like my ladies. And so then from ladies, I realized, sorry, Max. And then from there, I realized, okay, they need to be lifting, right? Because it's a different conversation and a different point from somebody who is not working out and just walking, or doing, just yoga, which I love yoga. I love walking. Yeah. Or just, trying to, I really want to be in the gym more, versus someone who's like, oh, I love working out. I'm already doing it consistently. I love lifting in some capacity, right? I have ladies who do dumbbells at home, and some who, do CrossFit or other hybrid bodybuilding methods in a gym, but lifting in some capacity, it's just a different starting point. So then even I can niche it down even to that. So it's like, all right, now let's really narrow in on the nutrition. So that's kind of the path that got me to here. And really the person I work with is who I used to be, right? The person who is, okay, I'm committed, I'm in it, but I'm doing more and more and more instead of working smarter instead of harder.
Mm-hmm. Seems like you can really sort of hone in on a specific. Do you think that helps in terms of finding new clients, or do you think that was sort of a byproduct of like focusing on starting your own business?
I definitely think it helped for sure, and because I'm speaking also to one person in my marketing, right? And so I've had so many people. Yeah.
To be clear, I am your target market.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Self-serving episode.
I love it.
Is this a sales call?
We're just recording it. She's going to sign up. We're actually going to go over her initial assessment right now.
Sweet.
So I have my blood panel. Can we just...
What is your glucose levels at? All right. Thyroid looking good. But yeah, definitely, because I've had people who've joined who be like, oh, you speak to the person who's like working out, and you're not just telling me to eat more vegetables and work out more. And you're like, actually, this program's designed for someone who lifts. Like, that's who I am. And so, yeah, I definitely think it helps for that reason too.
Yeah, you keep touching on this, like doing more and more thing. Like, what is the number one thing you see that these type of women are screwing up? So
it's generally not eating enough. And yeah, that's the number one issue I see, because it comes from that mentality of, okay, well, mass media is telling us ladies, okay, eat 1,200 calories, eat 1,500 calories, eat less, eat cleaner, work out more, burn more calories, right? And so that maybe worked the first time, or it might be great advice for the average American who could, use that. But for my ladies who are already working out and already eating decently healthy, they still like their guac and chips and, go out on date nights and maybe like to, party here and there and stuff. But on average, right, they're thinking in the back of their head, well, oh, I should eat this instead of this because this is less calories. Or I should, oh, okay, well, I don't have a good option here. I'm just going to skip breakfast or skip lunch, or I'm working, so I don't want to stop to go eat or have additional, my pre-workout or my post-workout. So that is a lot of times what I see, which I don't know if you guys have ever done any of those before. I know I definitely have.
Pre-workout for breakfast and lunch. What?
So yeah, it's definitely not eating enough and working out more. Like I was the person who I would go to squeeze in a gym session at lunch to be like, okay, if I could, I'm already working out every day after work, but if I could just squeeze in one more session at lunch, then I would really get my arms, right? Or when I was doing CrossFit, if I could just do one more extra training session on, my form on something, then that would get me a better performance, right? I was just doing more and more and more. And that's exactly what I see from a lot of people out there because of what mass media is saying.
I think before we go any further, we really need to settle cheer, CrossFit, bikini.
I know.
What's the hardest?
There's so much to unpack.
Yeah. What was your favorite? What was the hardest? What did you hate?
Cheer, CrossFit, bikini, racing dirt bikes.
Yeah, please, by all means.
What the heck?
Did you fight crime also? I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah, so I grew up in the boonies, and in the boonies you have four-wheelers and dirt bikes, and so it was just like what we did. And so every weekend, every Sunday, we had a RV where my whole family got in, and my whole family had a dirt bike, and we all raced. So we would go throughout. I'm from Virginia, so we would travel, a couple hours, and everyone else, it was a whole community. It was super fun. But I did that. And then my mom, actually, she would race too. And then she would drive me back, sometimes 5 hours to make it to cheer practice. And then I'd go to cheer practice and flipping around and being thrown up in the air. I just loved it. That's probably where I got my do more, because I wanted to do it all, which is great, right? It served me in some capacity because I got all these cool, fun experiences, but at some point it doesn't serve you. And when it came to building my shape, it definitely didn't serve me then. So I loved it. And then, but cheering, and it's kind of like the competitive kind where we were flipping around, gymnastics type of style. So I cheered through college and absolutely loved it. But after college, it was just a dead stop, right? I was used to being in the gym, my whole life. I was definitely a gym rat.
Do you mean gymnasium or actual you were lifting at that point?
Gymnasium. Oh no, we didn't lift in college.
Tumbling.
Yeah, they would say
around.
Yeah, they would say, all right, end of practice, give us 20 backflips and then you can get out of here. And I'm like, all right.
That's a leg day.
Yeah. Yeah, which seemed normal, right? I didn't know anything about the gym. I would go in there again, in between my cheer, practices, I would go to the gym and like get on the elliptical because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
Or I would do like abs because I was like, I can do crunches. I know how to do that. But yeah, I loved it. I loved competing. I loved like performing and putting on a show and, flipping around. It was definitely like my everything. And then all of a sudden it just stopped post college. I went to Louisville, and there's all of our athletes are all of our, all of our sports are pretty good. And so we called people who didn't play sports RKs, regular kids.
What?
Which is
Muggles.
Muggles, yes. Which I mean, most of my friends honestly didn't play sports, but because it was just a whole different like world that you were in. And so as soon as that day ended, I was like, I'm an RK. And I remember being on the couch. There's this picture my roommate took of me, just being on the couch, like in my pajamas, still watching TV, just eating so much food, being like, what do I do with my time and my life? I'm an RK now. Teach me your ways. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm bored. I got to start doing something. And I trained for half marathon, which I suck at running, but I was like, all right, we're just going to try this.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is all speaking to me. I was a dancer competitively, which, it's the same sort of performative thing in a group and then just stops after. Yeah. When you're done, you're just nothing. And all of my dance friends all started running and we all did marathons, I guess. So yeah, this is a common theme I'm sure you've seen in your clients.
Oh man. Yeah, exactly. And too, it's like, you've got to, like, even the like going to practice, right, and hanging out with your friends, it's like you get to see all these people, right? And like you said, it just stops. So yeah, then I tried running, awful at it, and hurt myself. And I was like, all right, well, I can't do running. What am I going to do? Saw in like a Groupon for CrossFit. And I was like, oh, I'll try that. And because of the like gymnastics background, I was instantly hooked, which I don't know if you guys have been down that road before.
You instantly hooked or instantly wildly impressive in class and everybody loved you and then you started going back.
Is that your story?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I sucked at CrossFit, but I loved it. I'm just saying you probably were crushing all the gymnastic moves from the beginning.
Yeah, all the gymnastic stuff, but I'd never lifted before. So I was like, oh, barbell. Okay. But yeah, so that was kind of the journey into that. And then I was doing it for years and moved out to San Diego where everyone's, really good at it. And I knew I was, I did fun local competitions, but I knew I was never going to be games material or like super competitive. And so I was kind of like at that point, like, all right, well, what do I want to do now? Because I could try really hard to get better, but I know that will still never be, something exciting for me. And that's when I saw people doing bikini shows in the bodybuilding world. And I was like, all right, I want to, I'm curious about that. But of course, in my head, I was like, well, I don't want to do one. I just want to know. I just want to know how they look like that and what they do.
That's how they get you.
Yes. Yes. Because of course I was like, oh, if I do one of these, people are going to think I'm so vain and so into myself and all of that. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go all out and do it. And I'll just have to deal with all of the whatever stories and shame I'm telling myself about it. But honestly, that's really, I learned the strategy and I was like, oh, why is no one talking about this? You actually have to eat more and you actually have to, work out more intentional and potentially work out less and do different things at different time periods where you have different goals and different like segments or off seasons, right? And so I learned so much, and that was when I was like, okay, I got to learn more and everyone needs to know about this. So now I kind of created the program for what I was looking for before, like the people who don't want to necessarily compete, or maybe it's like in the back of their head, but they're like, I want to know how you how you still like implement the protocol and what the strategies are.
Yeah, I mean, because it's useful to know that type of periodization and those strategies, even if you aren't going to be showing off on stage necessarily.
Yes, but I will say that one of the things that I learned, I mean, sometimes, of course, you got to practice in your clear heels. So I'm like meal prepping in my clear heels.
Wow. There's no way around that. It's just everyone wears clear heels. Is that a thing?
So the reason why, and this is fascinating, clear heels like obviously make you look taller, so they elongate your legs, but because they're clear, they also like that part helps elongate too. So even your nails, yeah, like you want your nails to be a neutral color and longer because it elongates your arm.
Freaking illusions. Why aren't the guy bodybuilders doing this? They're leaving height on the table.
I know, right? But they do get spray tans.
Okay. But they should be on clear heels, obviously. Can you imagine Arnold? He'd just be so much more impressive.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that was a thing and then a part of it. But I learned that posing is so important for just being, well, for Instagram, it definitely served me. But for being on stage, but I was definitely one of those ones like, oh, I'm not photogenic. I don't know. Like I look awful in every photo. And then I realized from competing, oh, it's just a skill and I didn't know how to do it. And so in my program now too, I added a little like posing, like bonus instruction module, because nowadays like you're going to get your picture taken and your friend's going to post it on Facebook or in their stories, or my mom now every time we go somewhere she's like, okay, what should the caption be? so it's just a part of it now. And I'm like, I hate when people look at photos of themselves and be like, oh, I look awful, I'm not photogenic. I'm like, oh no, it's just a skill. Here, let me tell you these few things that I learned from bikini shows.
You should add a line about finding your light.
Yeah. Oh man.
Turning towards the light and finding your window in a group shot.
Oh, you guys, all right. I might have to add a bonus and bring you guys on to do that, because that is getting out of my wheelhouse.
Well, it's technically it's whatever your goals are for the photo, because what Max is saying would be really great for your face, but awful for your abs. We need harsh overhead in the gym. We do have entirely too much information about this. Yes.
So that's why different gym selfies look good or don't look good. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Great. So you got the module of just better selfies. That's what we need now.
Yes.
So the bodybuilding stuff, though, always seems when we talk to bodybuilders that it's extreme. Would you say it's pushes things further than you would take your clients, or is there something like, tell us about the bad of bodybuilding if you experienced it or not?
Yes, for sure. Okay, so luckily my first experience was actually done really well, because they were known for being like, hey, we'll just do your first show, right? We're not trying to take this to the extreme. Let's just do your first show. So I actually ate a lot of food, which was great for like hormones long term. And, I didn't have to like rebound crazy and gain a bunch of weight or anything like that. So my experience actually was great. And I'm glad I had that, because I still got amazing results and learned this strategy. And so I only did 2 shows, and I might do one, or 2 another time, but I don't have the desire. It was kind of like, all right, I qualified for nationals, but going to nationals.
Way.
Yeah.
With that. All right, we'll just start the podcast here. Hey, Finn, she qualified for nationals.
Yeah, my first show, which was, kind of cool. But I knew after you qualify for nationals, like if you go to nationals, like it's a whole different ball game, right? I wouldn't just go, like I'd want to compete, right? And so that's where it gets into being more extreme. and not only extreme with like a lifestyle and socializing, but also extreme with where you take calories and cardio and potentially supplements and things like that, that I just didn't really have interest in, because I like to, one, I like my health. Two, I like to be it's a priority.
Not for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, no hate to people who do that. I think it's, you know, it's, everyone's got their thing, but I also am really social. I love like eating out. I love meeting up with people, I like to drink, like all of that. And so I took what I learned and I applied it to, okay, I want to look good. I want to follow this strategy and I want to improve, but I don't want to take it to that extreme. But I also want to include in eating out, you know, going on date nights or traveling and things like that. And so we've actually been traveling for the past 3 years. We'll live in one place for every like 4 to 6 months, and then we'll go somewhere new. So I've taken that and applied it to kind of this nomadic lifestyle that is social, but where I still prioritize, you know, making progress. And so that is really like where the level of my program is. Is like, yes, we're going to change your shape, and there's are going to be periods where you are going to have to be stricter and more accurate and more kind of intense, right? But the majority of the time, you really are in that what I call like a lifestyle phase, where you can include drinks each week, you can include going out to eat, but still 80% of the time you're going to be following these other guidelines that are still very doable and like repeatable in your day-to-day life. So I kind of went on a little tangent there, but did that answer your question?
It's like you're saying you're speaking to the bodybuilder that isn't a social loser. My God, yes, of course, this is exactly what I need. Honestly, that's Max too.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I think Allie and I sort of, that's part of the reason why we started most of this, was that we wanted, there was some sort of level between full-time bodybuilder who goes to bed at 7:30 every night.
Yeah.
You know, has never even wafted a vodka soda, you know, because God forbid, you know, likes to work really hard, but also likes to eat a bunch of bags of chips at a time. So that's sort of what we're like. That's sort of what we're looking for. A lot of people, though, how do you like explain that to people? Because it is a step above, but at the same time, it's like what I meant. It's a step above the. I guess I'll just pop into the gym. What am I doing today? I don't know. I guess I'll do blah blah blah. For, you know what I mean? It's the person like. I think for Allie, and I know for me, I'm like, okay, today is this day, and I have to track it with this, and now I'm doing that, and you know what I mean? It's a step above that specificity, I think.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that I explain it through kind of this one slogan of you work out, you should look like you work out, right? And so the people who are like, yeah, I do work out, that's me. And they're like, wait a minute, why do I still have this layer of body fat covering my muscle? I should look like I work out for as much as I do.
Yeah.
And so it like attracts those people and being like, oh, okay, wait, this is possible for me. And then in the program, I just tell them straight up, like, these are the 3 results we're creating. We're changing your body composition. You're understanding the nutrition strategy, which is this strategy that I keep talking about that I discovered that changed everything. And I spend a lot of time teaching in my program because I think that's the biggest thing that's missing. Like, people aren't empowered to make nutrition decisions. They think, oh, I either need to be an extreme bodybuilder or not, right? They don't know the in between because we're never taught this. It's not like we're taught this in school. If we are, it's, you know, garbage, and it was one 20-minute segment.
The food pyramid.
Yes, right? Like, yeah. And so the third thing is creating a nutrition routine. So that's the third result that I create. And so I keep hammering that in because it's not just, all right, I'm doing this for a little bit and then I'm going back to what I was doing before. It's like, okay, I'm creating this like systematic thing that works for me and is mindless, because when it's mindless, it's automatically just going to happen. And then that just becomes who I am. Like pairing that with the knowledge now, it just becomes who I am. That it's not that I'm on a diet or not on a diet. Like I'm just a fit person in my life. And then once you have that, I mean, that like serves you for years and years to come, but then you can start creating compounding results after that. So then it's like, okay, now every year my physique's going to look better and better, not because I'm doing more extreme stuff, but because I have all of these three things, like the strategy, I can make decisions on my own, and I have the routine in place.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sold. Okay. How much of this is mindset coaching? Like how much are you putting into really changing how these ladies think versus actual giving them nutrition information and changing their thoughts? Or sorry, that's still mindset. Changing the information and science behind what they're eating.
Okay, I love this because I don't really advertise mindset, because my ladies are very yes, they might be like, okay, I know how to, I don't need to be positive. I know how to do this, right? Which I'm like, oh, you just wait and see. But yeah, it's a huge part of it, and not so much in terms of your like, oh, I can't say no to McDonald's every night. Like not so much of that type of mindset, but really one being bold. And on our first call, I call it like a nutrition seminar, where I kick off the program. I talk about the characteristics of the people who have the shape, and they are bold individuals, because the standard of life is not set up for people to look good naked, right? It's set up for happy hours. It's set up for pizza and beer every Friday night, candy. Like it's set up in a way that 60% of the US is overweight, right? That's what it's reflecting.
Well, and I think it's ease. Oh, yes. I don't know what I want to do tonight. Oh, screw it. I'll just get, whatever pizza. I'll just get Chinese. Oh, I want to get a salad, but why is it more expensive to get a salad than it is to get a Happy Meal? Like there's so much more into it. That's like, you're falling into these traps kind of.
Oh yes, so in order to not do what the pack is doing, which we all want to fit into the pack, you have to be bold to say, yes. Yes, you have to be bold to say, oh, I know you really want this, but let's actually what about this, right? Or I'm trying to think of specific examples. I had one lady who said, I realized that I didn't want to have more than like one drink when she went out to this, like, I don't know, typical weekly thing. But because of the social pressures, or like I would just have more, even though I know I didn't want to. And now I've been empowered to like have the understanding and the knowledge behind it. And because we coach on being bold, to just have one and be completely okay with that. So that's just one example. Another one that actually happened this past week was somebody went to a family event, the gathering they have every Sunday night. And she was like, I was looking forward to my ice cream. And because we spend so much time like coaching on and thinking about nutrition knowledge, like how we're thinking, how we're feeling, the actions that we take, it just brought so much awareness that I realized I wasn't really looking forward to the ice cream. It was the social gathering, and I was just associating the gathering with the ice cream and putting them together, what brought joy to me. And she was like, I feel so empowered now. Like it's going to change my relationship with food long term. But of course I don't advertise that, because that's not what they want. They want to look good naked.
And then, oops, their mental health is completely improved. Ooh, whoops.
Oops. Whoopsies. I remember, seeing something you were saying recently, that someone felt more energetic after working with you, and you just now are talking about people tracking how they're feeling. Are you telling your clients to track energy levels and some sort of subjective feeling? Is there a way that you're having them keep track?
Yeah, so I track a lot of different data points, but definitely energy levels is one. I mean, we track sleep. I want to know their cycle, right, and their cycle symptoms, and their mood around that, right, is going to be something too. And the other thing I track is like their subjective trend, right? Like how do they think they're doing, which is always interesting because I'll see somebody who puts red, and to me, I read their, review, and I'm like, I don't know, you look pretty spot on to me. It's like, we're really progressing. But they put red because they missed maybe one day. Right. And I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity to coach on this because you think you need to be perfect in order to see the results, or you're beating yourself up because you missed that one day when you're really just lacking probably the knowledge, right, to understand of how it works. And that actually doesn't require perfection or 7 out of 7 days of the week. And then 2, there's probably something in there where you've had this belief of, I need to do better, I need to do more, it's not enough. And then I can kind of read through that in the check-in to then bring that to the coaching call to kind of dig in deeper. So it's kind of a holistic, like we kind of track a holistic view, and then I can kind of dig in deeper based on the words that they're using and the things that they're saying. Because I do see, like, if it's, what do you think you need to improve better next week? And they're like, oh, I just need to be better at meal prepping. I'm like, that's not really probably what you need to be better at. And I don't think that's helpful, right? To be like, I need to be better. I need to do more. I need to not travel as much, right? I just need to not go out to eat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's probably not going to solve it. Let's dig in to see what's really going on there. But again, I don't start off with the feels. We creep in. I slowly start cracking the egg, and then I bust it wide open.
You really are speaking to me. It's ridiculous. You're talking about this like very specific tracking. I've also seen you talk about intuitive eating. So how do you balance that? Is there a transition? Do you start with one or the other?
Yeah, I actually just changed the name of that because it was causing some confusion. So I changed it to my foundational guidelines. And really the way I think about it is, so there is tracking your macros, right? Which is very science data. If you are a lab rat, like it works great if your hormones are in check, right? And metabolism and all that other stuff. But like, that's really like the science in the data. And then on the other side, there's like the human factors where you're also a human being, right?
No,
you're not allowed.
Go on.
Where you may not be. The rest of us who are not aren't lab rats. But the things that are going to like show up in your day, like having a bad day or being super overwhelmed and super busy or going on vacation or whatever it may be. And so that's really where like the foundational guidelines come into play. And so really it's one, having a structure, right? So how many times are you eating throughout the day? Is it 3 meals? Is it 3 meals, 2 snacks, 3 meals, 1 snack? Just once probably may not cut it because you're not going to get enough food in there.
Look, coach, I don't need your woo-woo crap.
But that's the foundation, right? Like you don't need to track to do that. And when you have that like structure in place, then planning for what you're going to eat for the week, going grocery shopping is so much easier. Thinking about the meals or the snack is so much easier. And you can start creating this nutrition routine, right, where it becomes mindless. And so that is like foundational, right? And so our bodies are going to crave whatever we consistently give it. So if we consistently give it those meals every day, then our intuition is going to be to have those meals every day because it's going to be mindless. And then, what do you know? You're naturally now getting in enough food. Obviously, there's a little bit more to it than this, but you're naturally getting in enough food because you're eating, the 3 to 5 or however many you decide in your structure every day. And then we build off of that. There's another concept I have called create your plate to know, okay, what does that look like at each meal? Okay, get a protein, carb, and vegetable in. All right, now you just do that naturally every meal, and then you're getting all your macros in, right? And then there's ways to fine tune it to actually hit your, specific macros. But even if you didn't track your macros, one, you're probably getting very close to your amount of food if you're following your structure and you're creating your plate that is already set up to naturally hit your macro targets, right? And you're consistently doing it without having so much mind drama doing a math problem before every single time you eat.
I love that you keep saying mindless, because so many people come to me like, how do you stay motivated? How do you get driven? And it sounds like you're just teaching people to not even have to be any of those things because they're on autopilot. And that's,
love that you said autopilot. That's like the word, like go-to word. Yeah, exactly. It's like, nobody's motivated every single day, but when it's set up that it's harder to not do it than it is to do it, then you're probably going to have success because you don't have to rely on that willpower motivation. You just rely on your systems.
Harder to not do it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. That's like what Max was talking about. If you make it easier to have the meal you prepped, then go get pizza. Of course, you're going to not get pizza.
Right. Yeah. The convenience factor. Yeah. That's such a good point.
Love it. Okay. What is your current thing now? Are you still doing bodybuilding stuff? And how are you getting to the gym if you're a nomad?
Oh, we find a gym everywhere we go. It's like we have a checklist. it's the checklist, like grocery store, check out a few gyms, if we're, international, cell phone, all of that stuff. But so we found a gym here. It's great. It actually, I don't know if like the college scene is different than when I was there, but it's a college gym because it's right by ASU in Scottsdale, Phoenix, Arizona. Tempe, that's it. And there are so many people who are like into like the fitness scene. And I remember in college, like I would go to the gym and I'd be like, I have no idea what I'm doing here. I'm just on the elliptical. And there'd be like some guys there, but I'm like, hell yeah, so
Stupid
many
wrestlers.
Girls.
And a bunch of chicks on the elliptical. Yeah,
yes.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. And now it's like these ladies are like lifting and I'm like, this is awesome. So yeah, we found a great gym.
You and I should take full credit for that. I feel like there's more representation of that on Instagram. It might be just I'm in an echo chamber of following people obviously exactly like me. But yeah, I was never exposed to this kind of thing at that age, so I didn't know it even existed.
Yeah,
exactly. A positive for Instagram. Usually we take a dump on Instagram on this show. It's ruining my brain, but also,
1 point. 1 point for IG.
Hooray.
Yeah, so that was the first question. What was the second question? Gym and...
Yeah, are you doing CrossFit bodybuilding? What's your programming like now?
Yeah, so I'm doing a bodybuilding program, and I honestly loved CrossFit because I love the community. I loved hanging out with people, meeting people, and especially for traveling, it's such a good way to meet people. But I saw where I could work smarter instead of harder. Mm-hmm. And so it's hard to, it's hard to make that decision. But yeah, I'm doing a bodybuilding program now. I actually went to a conference the other week called N1. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's like newer research on strength training for the purpose of hypertrophy, where it's just breaking it down at a whole more detailed level. And so
I don't need that conference because I follow Brian Borstein on Instagram.
All right. Yes, exactly. He went there. I think he went there the week after us, and he like includes a lot of their stuff in his programming. So yeah, he got it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing about switching from CrossFit to anything else. You realize that, I mean, there's definitely good CrossFit programming out there, but it's just there's a way to be less fatigued and more targeted in the direction you're heading.
Right. Yeah. And I tell my ladies because they're like, oh, is CrossFit bad or good? I'm like, well, it's really neither. Like depending on your goal, right? Like some people who want to perform it, that's great. Or even like your level, your experience, like someone who's walking and then goes and starts doing Pilates, they're going to see progress. That person doing Pilates, they go to Orange Theory, right? That's a great progression. They're probably going to see more progress. From Orange Theory to CrossFit, they're going to be lifting a lot heavier. They'll start seeing more progress. And then if you go from CrossFit to then, you know, a bodybuilding program, you're going to see more fine-tuned. And then now I'm not at this level, but definitely like my boyfriend is, he needs like a specific program and to use specific machines to like get the most out of it, right? So it's almost like a progression where it's not good or bad, but it's like context, right? Like consider all this context and then you can kind of make your way through that.
It feels like you're just learning, like it's other tools in your tool belt. If nobody knows how to do any Olympic lifting, if no one's ever done any gymnastics before, then yeah, CrossFit can probably help. So is it good or bad? It's neither. It's just bad because eventually you get hurt, you know. That's sort of
Okay.
right there. Every single person I know who has ever done CrossFit, including myself, loved it until they got hurt, and then they were like, "You're right. Maybe I shouldn't have done that." And then that was that. But,
It would counter that, except our previous episode to this, I talked about how I got hurt in CrossFit and had to start bodybuilding.
I actually didn't get hurt in CrossFit.
good.
I got hurt working.
No. Okay.
Yes.
where
So
were you working?
as
As a CrossFit now.
yes, as a professional CrossFitter. No, just honestly being at my desk for too long, and do like literally, you guys, I catch myself and I'm about an inch away from my screen, and I am in it, and I'm like, it's in the computer. so close. And so just when I was, you know, that transition of being in the corporate world while building my business, sitting for hours and hours and hours, I developed costochondritis, which anyway, it's like tightening of the pec muscles. And then that made CrossFit really hard. So I had to stop CrossFitting for one reason, because of that. So don't work too hard, people. That's what I say. You gotta work smarter, not harder. See how it's showing up in all these different areas of my life.
Oh, wow. Did I read this correctly that your goal for the year is to add 5 pounds of muscle?
Yes.
My girl.
Yeah, that's the goal. I will say, I have to be honest though, I am kind of sandbagging, because I did a whole gut protocol where I lost a decent amount of muscle. And so the cool thing about muscle is it's like very hard for it to go away. And so the muscle just didn't disappear. The cells shrunk, right? So it's easier to get that back. But I want to gain additional muscle right on my glutes in addition to that too. But that's my goal this year for sure.
Oh, I love it. We're doing
So how
that
do we
by
do
not
that?
fasting.
Jumping.
Say that again?
Not fasting, jump lunge. No.
Yeah. More cardio.
What is your,
Oh, yeah, it's a great
what is
idea.
your stance on cardio? How do you prescribe it? Because you're working with a lot of people like we've dealt with that just get on the treadmill for 4 hours and never get off. And, you know, maybe that's not the right thing for a lot of people, but it's something that they've been taught. So how do you prescribe?
Yeah, so cardio in general, I feel like it's not the devil, it's just a tool, and how are you using that tool? And so going back to what are your goals? So for my people, the goal is to build muscle and decrease body fat. Well, we're going to use your training and your lifting to build your shape and build muscle, and we're going to use your nutrition to manage your body fat. So it doesn't make sense in that context to work out and it not be with the intention of building muscle, because we're already managing your body fat with your nutrition. So that's like my stance for cardio in our program. In addition to the number one issue I see is they're not eating enough. So if we have how many calories you're burning per day, which if you're working out and you're a lady, you're burning more than 2,000 calories per day. So if you're only eating 1,200, 1,500 calories and you're working out and thinking, I need to work out more, I need to add more cardio, you're just like increasing that calorie gap, the difference between how much you're burning and how much you're consuming. And we want to do the opposite. We want to close that calorie gap so you can increase your metabolism, give your body enough nutrients to support your hormones and overall like internal functions, and have enough nutrients to actually put on muscle. So that's how I use it for my ladies. And then when you're in, let's say, okay, you've been eating enough now, you've been eating more than 2,000 calories, based on what you specifically need. You've been putting on muscle, and now you're like, okay, I've changed my shape. And generally I do see too, you decrease body fat, and you just alter your body composition through doing that. They're like, all right, I really want to focus on decreasing body fat now. And they're in a good position to do that. We'll first use nutrition, and then we may use cardio again as a tool, specifically here or there. And generally it's a form of like HIIT, but like 5 to 10 minutes, like at the end of a training session, not steady state for hours and hours. And then lastly, like in terms of like my view on cardio, that's like specifically within my program. But I think like cardiovascular health isn't a bad thing, right? But I'm going to do it, for enjoyment. And so some of my ladies are like, but I love getting a, weekly run in. I'm like, great, do it. But don't do it for the sake of burning more calories. Or I like to mountain bike. So, they're depending on, the seasons, I'll mountain bike every week, and that definitely crushes my lungs. Or we're going hiking now once a week, right? So I think it does play a role, and it's great, but do something that you would enjoy with it in that context.
The cardio.
Yeah, disconnecting the burning calories from the activity is really cool. Again, a mental thing that you're sneaking in there on these girls.
Very clever.
Yeah, exactly.
Max, you want to ask the one question?
My old gym, we used to have, it was this, I don't know what they did, but there was a moving company called Gentle Giant Moving Company, and they must have had a deal with the gym because all the movers would go to the gym all the time. And they would come in and they would put so much weight on the bench press, do 1 rep, and then I'd see him out in the parking lot smoking cigarettes after. And I'm like, there's your focus. Okay. Cool, man. That's you.
Also, they get paid to work out. What are they doing even lifting? They did that all day.
Well, I think it was like you get stronger, you pick up more pianos, you can, I don't know, get through more shifts.
Extra piano lifting. Funny.
I got the grand piano today.
Da, 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 da. So we do ask one question. You sort of have touched on it a little bit, but how do you personally, and how do you tell your clients to deal with alcohol in terms of when it comes to their training?
Yeah, so I say when you're in the lifestyle phase, which you're going to be in 75% of the time, 1 to 4 drinks on average per week. And I actually have that like
hour?
in all my
per
hour per
per
session, Allie.
Yes. Per week. And I actually have that in all of my documents, and they're like 1 to 4, so I have to have 1. I'm like, all right, now I gotta go back and redo it all. So I found just in terms of the calories and the impact for like the average that like my ladies are having, that's a good range. And I say on average because you may have some weekends where you're going to a wedding, right? And you're like, no, these are my best friends, we're going all out. And then you may have some weekends where you're like, I'm at home with my dog and we're watching movies, right? It's going to be less. But giving that guidance, one kind of puts the ball in their court a little bit, so they have some of that flexibility and can make decisions there. But then they also are like, okay, I know I've got to keep it within this. But then it's like, well, yeah, but don't just say, oh, this sucks. Like, you can optimize it. So I'm like, all right, I used to love Moscow mules and they're great, but the ginger beer has 30 grams of sugar in it. And so I'm like, okay, well, I wonder if they make ginger beer without sugar. And they do. I'm like, great, perfect, right? Oh, I can have a half a shot instead of the full shot when I make this drink. So then I can have 2 of these, but really it only counts towards one of my drinks, right? Or I'll have, ladies who love wine, and it's like, all right, well, I'm going to have a water in between each wine, right? And I'm going to put it in a wine glass, because a lot of times it's like the act of having just something in your hand, or something, we call it here, like my boyfriend and I, good tasting drink, because realize that it's like you want something that's like creates an experience or has an effect, right? Because alcohol kind of can play both. And so every night, like, I definitely used to be someone like, oh, I want a glass of wine, every night. And then that definitely doesn't align with my goals. And I'd rather have it when I'm like out celebrating with friends or something. And I realized, what do I actually want? Oh, I just want something that tastes delicious, or makes me feel like calm. Like, all right, well, now I'm really into teas. And so then I started playing around with all these different, teas and different flavors and different like sleepy teas or calming teas. And it's delicious. Those go in the mug, but what goes in the wine glass is like a mocktail, like, so Topo Chico with lime juice, like a fresh lime juice squeezed in there, and then salt. So good. And that's
salt. Not tried that.
Yeah, so good. So don't overdo it on those, though. You might get a little crazy. Might get a little mocktail drunk.
Hey, be bold. You just be bold.
You gotta be bold. Yes, you got it.
Okay, so where the crap do I sign up for this 4-month program, please?
All right, so you will go to jennythenutritionist.com/create-your-shape. And I don't know when this is going to be airing. Maybe you guys don't know either.
A week from today, so.
Perfect. So the next group starts on March 14th, and enrollment is from February 10th through February 2nd. And during that time, you can learn more on my website. You can apply and schedule your consult with me, and then I'll give you everything you need to know and do, and all of the steps to create those 3 results that we talked about.
Killer. I love it. And also go follow her on Instagram. She's got some fire going on there with the posing and such.
Yes, all my ladies, when we get to the module part, I'm like, you'll now be able to see it in other people, right? And you guys are professionals in front of the camera, so you guys know, like, if you just stand there, arms by your side, facing the camera, head down, like, it's not going to be as flattering as, the arms up.
Front double bicep, obviously.
I saw that you do a lot of those. I'm not that bold. Maybe I need to work on getting that bold. That's my skill. That's my bold skill.
It is.
Yeah, but follow my Instagram, Jenny the Nutritionist.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you so much. This has been enlightening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for all of the awesome questions.
I'm going to go eat a whole lot more.
Yes. Eat enough. Be bold. Main takeaways.
I'm going to start drinking everything out of a wine glass.
Yep.
Just everything. Soup. Yeah, why not?
Put a little garnish at the top.
All right. And thank you to the
fancy.
Fit Heads. If you can rate and review on Apple Podcasts, that helps us out a whole lot. Oh, and you have a podcast too, don't you?
I do. Yes.
Yeah, we're on platforms. Send them to that.
Yeah, it's called Create Your Shape with Jenny the Nutritionist.
Love it. Cool. All right. And we will see you next week.